Hey guys, EST here, and I thought I'd make a video about this because boy is it relevant this week. If you heard about what's going on in the Texas region where a bunch of the wind turbines froze unfortunately and stopped providing 25 gigawatts to the state, which means power outages in the middle of sub-zero temperatures in a state in the south that's usually hot. Boy, you want to talk about unprepared, but I mean, I know a lot of people who don't know what to do even in my home state of Wisconsin, even though we lose power several times annually. And if it's in the cold half of the year, oh boy, things are about to get real cold. And a lot of people don't know what to do. So some people do nothing and hope the power comes back on. Some people do something extremely dangerous, like things involving cars and burning things indoors. So, okay, here is my guide to what to do no matter where you are if it's cold and the power goes out. And obviously you don't have like a fireplace or wood burning stove, because wouldn't that be nice? So step one, find out which rooms you don't really need right now and don't contain anything too sensitive. Absolutely gut them of anything that is sensitive, like, liquids or, anything that would freeze. And even really just condensation. So I would grab any kind of electronics that you care about. They're metal, it's cold. When it heats up and the dew points start getting all screwy, they might, basically be totaled. So alarm clocks, phone chargers, you name it. If it runs on electricity, grab it. Heck, if it's made out of metal and it's subject to oxidization, made out of iron, untreated steel, that kind of stuff, grab it. And while you're at it, grab any kind of clothes, sleeping bags, blankets, whatever's in the room, and then just close it and seal it off. And if you can, grab a bath towel and stuff it under the door so that there's absolutely no gap. You don't want any kind of cold air coming through. And the big laws of thermodynamics in this context is the absolute dead last worst is just cold air free flowing. So imagine like a door or a window to the outside that isn't quite sealed up. Like you can see sunlight through it. That's bad. The cold air is just flowing in. The second on the tier list, it's not quite as bad, is conduction. So let's say you had like a double pane, triple pane sealed window, but then the seal broke, it's no longer a vacuum, and now you touch the glass, it's crazy cold. Every morning you get condensation on it. You really ought to replace it, but my God, is that expensive. But boy, you get like a triple pane window, put your hand on it, you're like, oh, that's 50, 60 degrees. Okay, I get it. And then compare that to, it's basically within minutes the same temperature as the outside. What's happening is that's conducting to the air. Now, air isn't a very good conductor unless it's moving really quickly. Like water or metal compared to it, oh my gosh. But still, just sitting there static, you can actually, in some cases, on like a broken window, an old window, a not properly sealed window, put your hand about 6 inches under it on the wall and feel cold air like falling off of it as it falls down and pushes hot air up. And that's just glass taking the heat away from the air, sending it outside, and what you get as a replacement is cold air. So actual physical air movement is the absolute worst. The second worst is temperature conduction through things that have a high temperature differential. The actual equation is almost everything scales linear, so you can actually kind of do it in your head. It's basically the surface area of the object, so like, how big the window is, how big the wall is, how big the poorly insulated door is. So the bigger the worse it is, remember that's square footage. So if it's a 5 by 5 versus a 10 by 10, the 10 by 10 area that's improperly insulated would be 4 times worse because that's 4 times the surface area. Multiply that by the thermal conductivity of the material. So, poorly insulated versus well insulated. And then multiply that by the temperature difference. So you're going to lose heat twice as quickly if it's 70 inside and 50 outside as if it's 70 inside and 30 degrees outside. So that's how you can just get a mental image of like what is the severity of the worst areas. So what you want to do is if you've got problematic windows, problematic doors, air gaps in the door, do whatever you can, get out the duct tape, get out, if you really want the staple gun, get out whatever you can do, start taking clothes, blankets, whatever, and just, put them over the door. FYI, you do not want to cause a fire hazard where you can't get out immediately. So, if it's, duct tape, you can just rip it off. If you're going to be crazy enough to like staple gun a fleece blanket across one of your doors, that might be a little harder. You can probably yank it, but just be aware of that. You don't want to fix one problem and cause another. But yeah, just secure the weak points in your house and abandon the rooms that you don't immediately need. Remember, you can drag a mattress, you can, sleep in the living room, you're going to need the bathroom, and there's stuff in there that are going to freeze that you can't do anything about, like, the water in the toilet. You probably are going to need, a source of water, you're going to need a toothbrush, it would be nice. Need is a little exaggerated, but if you just abandon that room, you got pipes full of water. That's not good. You don't want that reaching outside temperature. Or you don't want it reaching below 32. So choose what rooms to abandon. And then also I kind of put step 3 with this, seal up the problematic areas. And I don't mean like it has to be a flawless seal. I mean, just do your best. Doing a little bit to add like thermal insulation to a problematic window or door or whatever. Even just a wall that you touch and it's like, that's cold. I don't know what's going on with the insulation. They didn't put in enough. It fell, it degraded. I don't know. But we're just going to tape a giant blanket to the wall. Just think about like you wrapping yourself in a blanket, how quickly you get warm. It's that much of thermal insulation. In fact, it basically is insulation. That's what a blanket's purpose is to have the lowest thermal conductivity possible. And the same goes for clothes and jackets, because I know blankets are actually kind of expensive, even at like secondhand resale thrift stores. So it's nice to have them. It's smart. But even like quilts and bedspreads, I mean, they're, $30, $40, $50, like brand new. Or higher, just saying. But if you got a long sleeve shirt, a wool sweater, some kind of nice little Sonoma sweater or something, stick that across the window. I mean, it will lower the thermal conductivity in some cases by like a factor of 10x. So you will lose heat 10 times slower. So you might be thinking, well, is this really going to do anything? Am I kind of like, the boat's sinking and I'm plugging it with little corks? The answer is yes. If you've seen modern homes where they really, really, really focus on just, doubling up the insulation, making the thermal conductivity ridiculously overkill. I've heard stories of like it's 80 outside and 70 inside and the air conditioner just doesn't run for like days, or it runs for like 5 minutes and you're good for 24 hours. It's that much of a temperature differential preventer. I think difference and differential are two different things, and differential is a ratio. I know the math people are going to say something about that. So what else do you want to do? Well, freezing pipes are a problem because 1, you don't have water, and then 2, your basement floods. So if you can, fill up everything you possibly have with water, just, whatever's clean to drink out of, or have a water filter, which you should have. It's like $15. Get a mini Sawyer, they can do 1,000 gallons. And then just think, okay, 1 to 3 gallons per day per person, I think, is the normal ratio that FEMA recommends, and it is true. It's like a gallon or half a gallon if you conserve it and just drink it and just don't wash anything. Which, I mean, you're in your own house. Why would you? So, just get a couple gallons. 10, 20 gallons you could probably work out with, taking some stuff, rinsing it out, out of the recycling or whatever. Get some gallons of, milk or whatever. Dump them out because your fridge is out of power, and then fill it full of water, and then turn off your water. But beyond that, your pipes are still full. So what you want to do is, if you absolutely have to leave the water on, or you don't know where to turn it off, well, 1, it's not that hard to find, but okay, maybe you're in an apartment or something. Go to your lowest source of water. So like in your basement, or just, I guess, the lowest mounted sink, which is probably a tie then, turn it on with just a drip. And just the gravity, the force of water will drain out the pipes if you turned your water off. But even if your water's on, you just turn it on to the lowest little tiny stream, because moving water will continuously come from the pipes that are further, they're far enough underground that they won't freeze, because they're like, I don't know, below 14 feet or whatever, something like that, where the ground temperature never reaches 32. So you're just going to constantly get like 40 plus degree water or whatever coming in. Even if the water temperature somehow, with how it's mounted and how high they go, in your neighborhood or under the street or up to your house or whatever, it might be susceptible to freezing. Moving water doesn't freeze as easily, if at all. So you want steady movement. And it's probably not going to cost you that much. People say, leaks, it looks like a small leak, but then you think about how many gallons per minute. But I looked at my water bill. If I burned 100 gallons, it would, I think, not even cost more, honestly. I think they charge by the 1,000 gallons. It's like $10. So yes, it's wasteful, but you know what else is wasteful? The pipes bursting, your whole entire basement flooding, and then having to deal with that. And plus, you can capture it. You can you put something under it, drink it, You don't have to just run the water down the drain. So now let's talk about establishing heat sources. So you're all insulated, you're good, you're stopping, the flow of heat out of your house. Now let's get some more heat inside your house. And there's so many unsafe ways to do it. So if the power's on, that's really simple. Basically like a 1,500 watt heater, which is your standard baseboard or blower heater, and just run it. Because a lot of houses are heated, with a furnace by natural gas. So if that's somehow not working, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be, but you have electricity, switch to electric. Pretty darn obvious. If you don't have a heater, hair dryers are usually 900 to 1,200 to upwards of 1,500 watts. Just run that. You're going to have to find a creative way to put it in like a bench vise or something. And a lot of them have safety or temperature overrides and timeouts, but they'll just sit there and blast 1,500 watts into the air, so it's not bad to improvise. If you don't have any of those things, I mean, you might want to consider just picking up like a 1500 watt ceramic heater at the hardware store, brand new for like $20. Take it out of the box, run it once outdoors for 30 minutes to get all the factory oil and nasty, just metallic coating smell and all that off. Cause oh my God, you will literally flood your house with like toxic burning hydrocarbons. Never, ever, 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 ever run a brand new heater indoors. Don't do it. The smell will drive you out of your house. The air will become not breathable. I am not kidding. So don't make the first time you use the heater be during an emergency. But yeah, just have that. It's just smart. Otherwise, I mean, if you're talking like I have a heater that's 750 if you put it on low, 1500 watts if you put it on high. I also have an 800 watt inverter. I have a 1500 watt inverter. So I could run the 750 off it if I had a battery. The problem is you're going to wipe out that battery in like a matter of hours, and not many people just have batteries sitting around. So what you absolutely in an absolute emergency can do is park your car as far away from your house as you can within, reach of extension cords. Take the inverter, which usually has basically jumper cable clamps anyway. Open up your car, run it at idle, clamp it to the battery. Most cars will create, I think, between like 700 and 1400 watts at idle without draining the battery from the alternator. So, there you go. And just set that electric heater on 750 and your car should be able to idle the average typical car for about 48 hours on a full tank, which is, quite a while. So basically your car is just a generator. It's got an alternator. It's going to, spit out 90 amps at 12 volts. There you go. Problem solved. And you can get a really crappy, just whatever blah inverter, like a high wattage one, like a really dumpy one, or especially a used one for like 50 to 90 and a absolute like top quality one for like 180, like a true sine wave one. Get bare minimum a modified sine wave one. A square wave one is just going to be just dangerous. Heaters, I'm not sure, but anything with a pump, a compressor, and some electronics, they do not like square waves because it's like too much energy. If you want to know more about inverters, how to do it, and just see me actually do it, hook it up to my car, show the voltage, all that stuff, I have a video on my channel. Just go check it out. The problem is, your car is going to sit there and spit out carbon monoxide out the exhaust. And if you're like right next to a window, right next to some kind of intake for HVAC, which in theory wouldn't be on, that's bad. If it's just kind of seeping in through a crack in a window, that's extremely dangerous. So if you have something heat-proof, like some kind of heat-proof or heat-resistant material, like a tubing, basically hook it up to your exhaust the best you can and run it down the driveway or just wherever. If you have exposed dryer vents like in your basement and it just kind of runs up the concrete wall into a window, take that off, seal it up, and run that. I mean, for me, it's only about 8 feet worth, so I probably wouldn't bother. But everybody's different. I've seen people who have like 15-foot runs from their dryer to the vent in the basement. You could just real quick unclamp that with a screwdriver, and there you go. You got high heat capable stuff that you could put on your car. A lot of that stuff's not made for car exhaust temperatures, but it's a thought. It might melt, whatever, but it's at least got, steel wire in there that won't. Plus, remember, it's cold outside. Your exhaust might actually not get that hot, and it's not like you're, running the car at 5,000 RPM. So other sources of heat. Should you just break down your furniture, put it inside of a baking sheet to prevent your carpet from lighting on fire, put it on a ceramic table or your stove and light it on fire? No, the smoke will kill you. In fact, the treatments on the wood will kill you. The polyethylene or polyurethane, pardon me. Well, both. I think it'd be polyethylene wood glue. No, don't burn your furniture. Okay, so you've got a little bit of firewood for your grill outside or your smoker or something, or you got charcoal briquettes. Nope, still too fumy. You've got a half gallon of hexane, also known as lighter fluid for a grill. Hexane is going to break down into carbon monoxide, black soot, and stuff you don't want to breathe. That's not an option either. If you're absolutely desperate, and I've tried this, it's pretty nasty, but it won't typically give off almost any carbon monoxide at all. You can take 91% or better yet 100% isopropyl alcohol, put it in a coffee mug, set it on your stove because it can take the heat, fill it up about halfway and light it on fire. The thermal output of that is roughly equivalent to 1 to 2,000 watts, and it'll burn for a while. I mean, just a tall mug full of rubbing alcohol is, you're talking like an hour worth of burn, and usually the flames are a foot high. I mean, the thermal output and the chemical energy, that is insane, and you can pick those up at like the drugstore for like $2-3. Here's the thing. Flawless, perfect, untreated, pure isopropyl alcohol. It should be 9% water, 91% alcohol, the end. And isopropyl alcohol burns extremely clean from what I know. That said, whatever the heck brands I just bought from CVS and Walgreens, my God, do you get a funny vapor in the air. It wasn't carbon monoxide. I ran tests, waved it around, had 2 different testers. And by the way, if you want to test your carbon monoxide detector to see if it's some Chinese fake crap or broken, take it outside, which in a lot of cases actually requires an extension cord because they don't really run on batteries. Start your car, hold it up to the exhaust. If it doesn't go off, it's broken. Real simple. But anyway, yeah, I did it in my basement to heat it up real quick just as a test, and I did it upstairs, and it got just weirdly fumy. There was something there, and some of the like static sensitive surfaces started to get black soot on them, and I'm thinking, well, how's that possible? And the mug that I was burning in had black soot, and I thought, there's nothing in alcohol that makes black soot. So it was either like leaching off the plastic from the container because it's really low grade, like BPA infused garbage plastic, and that you don't want burned, or I don't know. There was something in there, some kind of little antiseptic thing that wasn't on the label. I don't know. I don't know what went wrong, but it got a little fumy. So I was a little concerned about that. And the black soot, it seemed like something you shouldn't breathe, but like I was fine. It's just the air got smelly. So not ideal, but if it's an absolute emergency and it's between that and freezing, go for it. If you want to actually prepare, what you should do is get the non-ethylene glycol, non-ethanol based cooking like Sterno/chafers. Sterno is the brand. It's kind of like Kleenex, where everybody calls everything a Kleenex instead of a facial tissue. But the actual item is called a cooking chafer. They put them indoors at like indoor events or outdoors, and they put them under those little tins, usually double stacked with water so it doesn't get above 200 degrees, and they just keep the food warm on a buffet line, And they're rated for indoors. I mean, and the bluer and the less orange the flame, the less carbon monoxide there is being produced. It's usually low regardless, but they even say like using a ventilated area or using like a 50,000 square foot, rental hall for like a wedding or whatever. And that's fine. 12 cooking sternos aren't gonna, poison everybody. But I will say the wick style ones where they say, oh, it only burns with a wick, and if it spills, it doesn't light on fire. That's ethylene glycol in there, which I believe is antifreeze. That's not real healthy for you if you were to, drink it. But the fuel in there is usually some kind of modified ethanol. It doesn't burn as clean, and it puts off a little bit of carbon monoxide. So get the methanol ones. That flame is so blue and so thin that you can't even tell if it's lit or not in daylight. That is as clean burning as it gets, and all the technical spec sheets of these things are like, wow, there is no carbon monoxide. That said, I wanted to see if I could force them to produce it, so I put 5 of them in my car after a snowstorm, mostly to defrost it and also to run the test. And my car is, very small. I mean, it's in square feet, it's what, like 20? And after a couple hours, they started to burn like almost pure yellow. And I stuck a carbon monoxide detector, just tossed it in the car, closed it, it went off immediately. So anything that burns when there's not enough oxygen is going to produce carbon monoxide. So the thing is your house big enough to probably not produce, run out of oxygen? Yeah, probably. But I mean, what if power's out for 3 days and you're burning those 24/7? I would start to get a little concerned. So have a carbon monoxide detector if you buy those, methanol gel cooking sternos or anything else. Put it near it just in case, and as a backup, maybe every hour or two, check to see that the flame hasn't turned yellow. If it has, blow it out, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. But in my 500 square foot house, when I sealed off one bedroom, like the stairs to the basement all there, I think I got it down to about maybe 300 square feet that I had to warm. And I let my house get to 60, which was, pretty chilly. And I think it was about 30 degrees outside. So pretty significant temperature difference. I took 3 cooking chafers, which, by the way, they're about 400 watts equivalent. So it's like running a 1200 watt heater nonstop. These were, I think, actually the 6-hour ones, but the 6-hour ones tend to be that really non-clean burning, more dangerous, ethanol stuff. So the methanol ones, they burn for 2 hours, but they weigh about the same. So their thermal output is higher, I think. So I'm starting to think that the wick-based ones are actually like very far from 400 watts equivalent. Like they're like down in the like 500 BTU range from what I've seen on spec sheets, which is not much when you convert it to watts. If you look online, Amazon, eBay, or just webstaurant.com, I believe is the name of the place where I get mine, you can pay under $1 a piece for methanol gel chafing fuel. It's the brand is called Choice. Normally in stores, you go to Party USA, you go to like Gordon's, you go to Costco, you go to Walmart, they're going to be about $3.50 to $4 a piece. So paying like 75 cents a piece and just buying a case of 72 of them for like $50, yeah, that's the better option. Just be careful because there is a choice ethanol gel chafing fuel, and then there's a choice methanol gel chafing fuel. One's purple, one's blue, buy the blue. Or just read the label. It's not hard. So besides, improvised electrical running on batteries or making something like that work, you're pretty much down to, burning stuff, and there's not much. I mean, people say, what about kerosene? What about like a kerosene lantern? No, that thing just outputs soot. It's about as yellow as a flame gets. Anything thicker than alcohol, and alcohol is a really thin molecule, it's just not going to work indoors. The closest I can think is there's like a liquid candle thing from the actual company called Sterno. I haven't tested it. Usually they market it as clean burning, indoor safe, and soot free and all that stuff, but I mean, the flames are pretty yellow. I don't know. I don't really trust that. It is rated for indoors, but not for like heating. It's literally for just like buffet warming at a small scale and for literal just candles. And for the record, it can't burn without a wick. So that's another thing. So that's one that I personally haven't tested. It might work, but it's like if you're going to buy that, it's really expensive. Just buy methanol gel chafers. So yeah, kerosene, not going to work. Hexane, not going to work. Octane, aka gasoline, my God, no. Have you seen that stuff go up? It's just black smoke. That stuff's going to be kicking off carbon compounds, carbon monoxide, everything, plus it burns explosively. The vapor's light. You don't have to be out of your damn mind to burn that indoors. But people are like, it's 30 in here, everything's freezing, we're freezing, we're in trouble. You still can't. At that point, you should just leave. You should just, I don't know, go to your neighbor's house who watches my channel. Which, if you're watching my channel, that doesn't make sense, but still. So the only other thing you can do is really take advantage of thermals. If you've got the sun shining directly in, like a window, make sure the shades are open, the blinds are open, and just let that sunlight in. Sunlight full blast in the middle of like the desert in the middle of the summer is, I believe, 1,600 watts of energy per square meter if we could capture all of it. So 1 square meter, so like 3 feet by 3 feet, that much sunlight, so like one window, is 1,600 watts of energy. The problem is your walls are probably painted white or something, not dark. So it's going to bounce around. It's going to go back out the window. Some of it's, not a perfect conversion to heat no matter what it hits. But what you want to do is take anything black. If you got black poster board, black blankets, black shirts, whatever, put that in the path of the sunlight as it comes in the window. And it'll actually absorb it and transfer it to heat. That's literally what black ink and black materials do. I mean, if you've ever sat in your car on a cold day, but when it's full blast sunlight with no clouds, you might say, oh, this is kind of nice, greenhouse effect with the glass and all that. My car is a nice, okay temperature, but then try putting on like a black long sleeve shirt. You'll notice that all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm hot. I got to take this off. It's been 18 degrees here in Wisconsin sitting in my car, and I got a black jacket, and I'm like, this jacket's getting too hot. Like, it's sitting there absorbing like 500 watts based on the surface area, plus the greenhouse effect bouncing off the windshield. It gets real hot real quick. So anything that's in direct sunlight, open the window and put in the path of the light as much as you can, anything dark colored. It will just sit there and radiate heat. You'll be amazed by how well that works. Another thing, if it's doable, this is pretty wacky, but you can do it. Take anything heavy metal or any rocks that you can carry. I think bricks would kind of work. Anything really, really dense, but that has like, what do they call it? A high thermal capacity. Build an improvised campfire outside, especially if you're in Texas, it's 30 degrees and your whole entire lawn is covered in snow or frost. You should be good as far as fire hazard, but if you got a driveway, your driveway ain't gonna catch on fire. Just don't be an idiot, and especially keep a bucket of water near it, or fire extinguisher, something safe. Be safe about it. You're probably violating all kinds of laws about burning a campfire in your, front lawn or your driveway. But it's an emergency, and you can do anything in an emergency. But you get a campfire going with even, something toxic. We're talking, painted wood, coated furniture, whatever. I mean, it'd be better to use, dry wood and actual firewood. Don't cut down a tree. It's not going to work where the crap is. That's just not going to burn without very heavy assistance. Even if you do, green wood puts off all kinds of like really nasty chemicals. But most of that, like all the painting and varnish, you don't want to burn that. That's in the context of cooking above it because it'll absorb it. If you're just like, okay, cool, I won't breathe downwind of it, burn whatever the hell you got, Like, who stocks firewood if you don't have a fireplace or you don't have an in-ground fireplace outdoors? So you just burn whatever burns. Okay, cool. Hell, you might just burn cardboard. That's hard to keep going, and you won't get any coals, and you'll have to keep feeding it every 3 minutes, But okay, cool, you got a fire going. I mean, 1, stand near it, cool, but don't breathe near it, depending upon what it's built with. But then 2, put rocks, bricks, metal cookware, the thickest, heaviest, most dense, crazy thermal capacity stuff you can possibly get, put it all around the fire, preferably things that won't light on fire, and then just bring them inside. I've seen people take like 4 heavy rocks, they put them around a campfire, and then they put them in their car, and it's like enough thermal energy for like an insane amount of time that it'll defrost the windows and up the temperature in the car by like 20 degrees. And that's while the wind's blowing on it and cars aren't insulated very well. So you take one inside your house, the amount of just like BTUs, watts, whatever, joules, whatever you want to measure it in is pretty significant. And plus just a full-blown blazing campfire is on the order of like, probably 30 to 50,000 BTUs, which is several thousand watts. But of course, it's just flying off into the air. But if you could take the conducted heat through the air and the infrared coming off of the fire, put it into a brick, a rock, or some, big metal, thick, cast iron cooking stuff, and then you bring it inside, set it all on your stove, because stoves, they're meant to take a ton of heat. You'll just sit there and radiate heat over and over and over and over and over in your house until it cools down to room temperature and you got free heat. So you're basically taking the outside campfire and taking the energy from it, part of it, and bringing it inside because you can't bring the fire inside safely. And by the way, just a jug of water, if it's in like a metal canteen or a metal container, something that won't melt, put that near the fire, get the water, 140, 150 degrees, boiling, whatever you can, even boil it on top of it in a pan, and then bring that inside. The thermal capacity of the water, it will make its way into the air. The only other thing is steam and evaporation and the phase change to gas. That will actually, just in the motion of the molecules, eat up some of the energy, a significant amount. But the rest of it is just going to go straight into whatever. And plus, if it's a metal pan, it's going to conduct from the water to the metal very well. And then or a pot would be better. And then to the air, from the metal. So rocks, metal cookware that's heavy, and water. Those are your 3 big ones for absorbing fireplace or campfire energy and bringing it inside. But that's a last resort. I'd rather just put 800 watts in those 2 little methanol gel things and then go on with my life and just whatever. People might say, okay, solar, you're never going to keep up. You would literally need like a dozen solar panels, and then, well, what if you got snow or frost on top of them? That's not fun. What if it's cloudy? That's not fun. But yeah, if you had like 1,500 watts worth of solar panels, which is like several $1,000s, that's got to be at least $3,000. It depends who you get them from and how you install them. And all that would run with a very expensive battery and capacitor, regulator, all that stuff, is maybe a 1,500 watt heater, and that's it. So nobody has a rig like that. I would encourage y'all to get a solar powered power wall. Those are cool, but the maintenance and the payoff period on them, it's like 7 years. It's not great. It's kind of just like an interesting rich people thing that's a convenience when the power goes out. And honestly, you'd probably almost rather put it to like your refrigerator and stuff. So, you'd be looking at probably like a 3,000 watt install, so that you could run your whole house if you kind of conserve it. And then if half that's got to go to heating, boy, it's going to get tight. So it's a very expensive, not great way to do it when you could just get 75-cent methanol gel chafers. So that's my preferred method. I would say that the chafers and a carbon monoxide detector grand total is going to set you back maybe $100 if you buy a ton of them. But $100 to heat your house in case of emergency for like 2 weeks, it's not bad. But if you're really, really scared of carbon monoxide or open flames inside your house, or you don't want to, have a crate full of flammable explosives basically somewhere in your house, I think the whole, let's just have a bunch of spare blankets and some duct tape, and we're going to just tape everything to the walls. We're going to cover as many doors as we can, and then we're going to open the windows, let the sunlight do the job for us, and then set out a bunch of black stuff, especially black blankets, and then just cover ourselves in blankets. You should be fine. It should be enough to heat your house just with the sunlight, assuming it's not cloudy. And even then, even a cloudy day, it's still going to be pretty significant sunlight compared to like the nighttime. But then the problem is that only works until nighttime. And nighttime's when you're sleeping. Yeah. I will say that an exercising human, like at absolute max, like you're really pounding it hard, can output about 200 to 300 watts of total energy. And like I said, that's not going anywhere other than, heat to the air. So if you had 5 people exercising really hard inside of a room, I'd prefer you stop before you get sweaty or it's going to get really smelly in there. But other than that, you do it for 10 minutes, you're basically going to put off 1,500 watts. Now, the problem is you run on food fuel. So as long as you got food, you got dry goods, you got stuff you can eat, and all your food isn't just in your fridge or requires heat and boiling water to cook, you should be able to just eat whatever, exercise, and now you're the heater for the house. So you could just purposely say, hey, okay, forget your house. We'll try to seal it up the best you can, but my neighbors are all coming over. You got 2 families of 5 people. You got 10 people. You close off certain rooms and you all stay in one room. Even just kind of idle. I think the human body puts off like 80 watts or something like that just to sit there and exist. For the record, the muscles do run on oxygen. But have you ever heard of like even a concert venue with 500 people crammed into 2,000 square feet running out of oxygen? Nah, not with like a little bit of ventilation and the HVAC on. Just saying. So usually you won't have to worry about, oh, this house is sealed up so tight we'll run out of oxygen. So if you're real concerned or people start getting lightheaded, just crack a window for a second, let it vent, which let some cold air in and reset it. But hey, what are you gonna do? But yeah, as a last resort, just use human heating. It does work, and the whole like, okay, fine, we're all gonna slam onto one mattress, fit 8 people on there, and we're gonna put 3 blankets on because that's all we got, and whatever, we'll stay warm over the night. I mean, if you gotta do what you gotta do, then it is what it is. But it is smart to have one person awake to, check the whatever's burning, the chafers if you got that going. Check the carbon monoxide levels, do some exercise every couple minutes to accelerate the cardio to see if that person would be affected first by a lack of oxygen or carbon monoxide in the air. And to, make sure that the pipes are still going. Just, somebody stays up overnight, sleeps during the day, and they're on watch to make sure nothing bad happens. That's very, very, very smart. So I guess I might as well throw the extremely drastic scenario out there. So you're all set and everything's good. Power goes out, but you're all prepared. You got blankets, you got a little source of heat, something to burn, whatever. You got an electric backup heater, runs on batteries, whatever your plan is, you're all set. And then the wind or the snow or whatever tips over a tree, and now you've got a hole in the side of your house. Yeah, you're probably either going to have to seal off that room with a door, or if it's, the new open design that's very popular right now. I'm a big fan of that. Well, there's nothing you can do, and it's an emergency. I mean, obviously go to your neighbor's house and tell them, hey, we got a plan. We're gonna go take some duct tape and duct tape blankets to the walls and seal off this, and don't worry, we got this. They'll be pretty impressed, and you'll be a valuable, asset to them. Or if that's not an option, like I said, you could go into your car, you could idle it for a good 24 to 48 hours, on a full tank. But the problem is, you got your air intake, you got your exhaust, and with the wind and stuff, it's going to start to waft and it's going to fill up, and it's just, it's just not smart. I mean, idling a car, some people say, oh, I just idle my car all night and it's no problem. I'm in an open parking lot and it all just blows away. Well, if there's no wind or if the wind's blowing towards your air intake or whatever, it's just not safe. So what you want to do is take anything not flammable, anything that won't melt, whatever you can possibly get, attach it to your exhaust at the back of the car and run it as far away from the car as you possibly can. I don't care if you're going to take a metal funnel and put it to a garden hose and just hope the garden hose doesn't melt. I mean, you're going to want to check on it, but like I said, if it's negative 10 degrees out or something, it's probably not going to melt at idle. Your engine's not that warm at idle, but I don't know. It's not like I've ever tried this. I've just kind of read about it. Never had to. I've got all the other methods, but yeah, worst case scenario, sleep in your car with the heat on, max, which even at idle is not going to be the same as driving down the highway, just saying, but your heater core should be like, it's like a 1 to 2 to 3,000 watt equivalent, something in that neighborhood. At idle, it's a little bit lower, but it's enough to heat the car, even though it's going to lose temperature really quick. And you should be fine as long as you get that exhaust gas as far away from the car as you possibly can. I mean, even like 10 more feet, that's probably enough to be pretty safe. But we're talking like really drastic emergency stuff. I mean, in that scenario, you'd almost have to be in a really rural area with the roads also impassable due to snow. Because what would I do? Well, my house is a total write-off. Turn off the water and drain that and keep the tap going just a little tiny bit and leave. And who's guaranteed to have heat? Hospitals. It's just that simple. They, by law, have to have generators, and their generator goes to the HVAC. They've got emergency heat, and just tell them, hey, it's an emergency situation. Can I just sit in your lobby? What are they going to say? No. I don't think they can even legally say no. And plus, if you're just sitting there doing nothing, you could say, hey, I've got basic first aid, training, which usually for legal reasons, they still won't let you near somebody unless it's a really drastic overflow, crazy emergency. Especially if you're like, hey, I was a medic in the army. Just let me at them. They'll just be like, fine, whatever. It's the best we can do. Fine, sue us. You'll lose in court. There's been precedent. But even if you're just like, I could help direct people. I could take down names. I'm sitting here doing nothing. I could let me do something. Hand out masks, hand out hand sanitizer. You can just clean stuff. You can disinfect them. You just say, hey, put me to work doing whatever. I'm here. And if they decline, then they decline. Then you just sit there, whatever. But Yeah, I would just, in a drastic emergency, go to the closest place that has a generator backup. I can't think of any other buildings that normally would. Maybe like some government or military establishments, but good luck just getting in there. But I mean, wouldn't it be nice to avoid all that and just have a backup heating scenario and have a plan and just be able to sit in your own house and deal with it? So that's why, like, I kind of planned this video to be like cascading worse and worse and worse scenarios. So try to prepare for something in like the first half of the video. That's going to be a little nicer for you. So that's basically the extensive guide to everything you could possibly do that I could possibly think of or have ever read about in any survival guide for what to do in a cold winter storm when the power goes out at your house. So if I missed anything or you got any other tips or anything that worked for you, things that didn't work, problems that you ran into, new ideas, anything, I'm open to anything. So leave that down in the comment section below. Otherwise, shout out to Texas. Hopefully your scenario gets a little bit better. But hey, I mean, if you know people in Texas, if you know people anywhere, because power outages in cold weather, it would be proven as of this week, can happen literally anywhere. Send this to everybody. I mean, put it on social media. I mean, a lot of times, people are like, yeah, that's a cute picture of your cat and whatever. But like, I also kind of liked it when you said, hey, here's how to not die. Watch this 30-minute video on how to be safe. And people are like, okay, that actually was valuable information. I'm glad that you shared it with me. You want to improve your relationship with somebody and have them thankful. Tell them how to not die in a bad scenario. There you go. Hell, tell them to sub to my channel. I mean, it's totally not self-serving and biased in any way. I'm totally not just trying to drum up views. No, I'm kidding. It's clearly both, obviously. But right now, this channel doesn't even have ads on it. I'm just putting this information out there because I want people to know the information. It's all about people being safe before my bottom line. I mean, I've got another job. So hey, thanks for watching. Like I said, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. That all helps, visibility, and send this video to everybody you think it might help. I'll see you guys next time.